Hi, and welcome to episode 8 of the In the Wrong Bed Darts Betting Podcast. I am your host, Justin Weigler, and with me always is Jonathan Sokol. Today, we're going to be reviewing the Premier League of Darts final, as well as the upcoming U.S. Darts Masters, which is great because this is the only one that a lot of us get to here in North America get to see live and on
Yep.
our time. First off, Premier League, great final. The first two playoff games, not so much. Each one 10-5 by the Lukes.
Yeah.
Um,
Got a Luke off in the final, which
yeah,
is always
yeah,
fun.
yeah. It is. It's kind of what you would have expected for that time, just the way the season was going. We did like Luke Humphreys um, over
Littler.
MVG.
Oh yeah.
We didn't necessarily. I kind of like Michael Smith to cover, or at least against Littler, just because he had success against him, but he just didn't have it. You could tell after the first couple legs, he just wasn't there. And you could tell with Michael Smith sometimes when he doesn't have it, he just kind of gets real. His body language isn't good. Like he
Yeah.
gets very frustrated, and you saw that. Um, you can see when he thinks he's not playing well, and he knows he's not playing well. Honestly, he just starts shaking his head, or he's just like got this look like I don't know what's happening today.
Yeah. Yeah. He's one that you can usually tell how he's playing pretty quickly and whether or not he's got a good chance to win early on. So
Yeah. Um, Littler or Humphreys took care of MVG. We kind of thought that was going to happen just because MVG wasn't his best either, and we both took Littler or Humphrey. Jesus, confusing the Lukes. Um, took a -2.5 even, and that felt like a easy win, especially at a 10-5.
yeah.
And the nice thing about it is one of the only times during the darts year that you actually know who's throwing first. So it was a little bit more palatable taking him minus the 2.5
Exactly.
um,
That's a really
during
good
that.
point. Yeah.
Which again, I always rail about darts. I wish you would know far ahead of time, like who is doing that to bet on it, because it makes such a difference whether you're considering just taking maybe 1.5 or even or even 2.5 or longer against darts.
That's why you should focus on Modus more.
Yeah, you're right. I should. That's true. I will give Monas a ton of credit for that. You know exactly who's going first, and it's probably because they know the only reason people are watching Modus 80% of the time is because they got money on it. Like you and I. So
Yeah.
then the final, obviously, Littler throws an insane 9 darter after the break and just never looks back. Like that was just crazy. Comes out of it. It was 5-5 heading into the break, but you could tell Humphreys just didn't, I don't know, just something wasn't quite right. Like he was lucky to be 5-5 going into the break, I thought.
Yeah, it did feel like even though they're tied, Littler was playing better at that point, and Humphreys was getting by. So it wasn't surprising the second half to see the way that it went. But
Yeah, that would have been actually, if any books here in the US were taking it, like would have been a really good live betting opportunity, but I couldn't find one even to bet on. Luke Humphreys was actually the favorite in that match, even though he was throwing second. It was -125. And I took Luke Humphreys, and obviously hindsight was 2020. You could see the narrative was with Littler, but even though he had the darts too, I just thought Humphreys had the experience probably to kind of get over the line and play a little better. But you could tell after the 10 legs that that Littler was just far more consistent throughout the match, and he had a higher average, but also just was hitting what he wanted to. It seemed.
yeah, but I do think actually Humphreys played better in the semifinals than Littler, and so that was kind of
100%, 100%
like
great. I think, and
throwing
that's
us
uh,
off
and
a
that's kind
bit.
of clouded my
But
judgment. I think,
yeah,
because I didn't think Littler played that great, even though he beat Michael Smith 10-5. I didn't think he played that great in it.
yeah,
Like he was definitely not in his A game. He was definitely around like his B game, and so I thought, okay, Humphreys was on his A game against MVG.
MVG,
So
yeah.
I figured, okay, he's got it today. Maybe that's just it. Some days you have it. And Littler just decided, nope, I'm just gonna play better right
Yeah,
now, and that's
stepping up.
it.
Yeah. I know I had Humphreys as well, so that but didn't mind seeing Littler win. That was fun, especially with
Yeah,
the
it was
nine
really it
darter.
was cool seeing him win, and I
Yeah.
was excited to get one over Humphreys. Kind of taking back against the World Finals, but this could be a great rivalry to come. I think it's just you know
Oh yeah.
those two are absolutely the top two players in the game right now. They're head and shoulders above everybody else. And it's not, I don't even think it's really particularly close right now that I would take. There's no way that they're not favored in a match at this point unless they're playing each other,
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely agree.
which good segue into the US Darts Masters because they are the top two oddsmen when it comes into going into the tournament this year. The way it is, it's actually they're in different halves of the bracket. Humphreys is ranked 4, Littler's number 2. So if they meet, they'll meet in the finals, which no one's going to be shocked if you see two Lukes in the finals again. Um, the one thing I find interesting though about the what's good about the Masters series or the World Series of Darts, I should say, is you kind of get a feel for which how each country's or region is doing when it respects to developing their own players. And 5 years ago, the U.S. wasn't nearly as good as the U.S. and Canada weren't nearly as good as they are now. And right now, I would say, and we'll go through all the matches. All the matches, I think, exception of maybe one or two, um, I wouldn't completely rule out a U.S.
An
player
upset. Yeah.
upsetting any of the guys. Whereas I was said 5, 6 years ago, you might have been lucky to get one through um, against somebody. And now
Yeah.
that's just not the case. Like they're far more competitive. Three of them are actually PDC total card holders. One of them who's not was Jeff Smith, who got to the final last year. So he's producing quality and can produce quality as well. Uh, but let's take a rundown. Who do you think is? I mean, the favorites obviously Littler and Humphreys about plus 230, plus 250, depending where you can get it. But who else do you like in this tournament?
Yeah. Just for the price, I guess Michael Smith and Rob Cross seems like one of those two could come out and take this one. Um, yeah, and I think they were going off at what 16-1 for Cross and 11-1 for Smith. So I mean, it feels like each one of them has at least a 10% chance to win. So both of those to me seem like good value bets
I agree
on those
100% on
guys.
Rob Cross too. I mean, Michael Smith actually won this event 2 years ago. Last year, MVG won it. But I really think that like Rob Cross, like either you wouldn't be shocked if Rob Cross loses like in the second round, or you wouldn't be shocked if he won it.
Yeah,
He just plays
yeah,
good, consistent darts. If he doesn't lose the plot, which occasionally he does, um, if he stays that, he could absolutely win because he has a relatively favorable draw. I would say is as much as you can get a good draw in these tournaments when you have essentially 8 of the top 12 players in the world. There's, you know,
yeah.
really your
And
good
each
draw
one,
means you avoid, you're trying to avoid Luke Littler or Luke Humphreys essentially in the second
but
round.
each one gets one of those essentially before you're getting to the finals. So,
Yeah,
uh,
and his draw, he drew actually Adam Saveda, who is like the third PDC qualifier.
yeah,
And there's no reason that Rob Cross should not win that match. Like he really is like if he just turns up even an average game, he should win that 6-3, 6-2. Like Savannah is probably the weakest member of this field. He's the one guy I would say probably just does not have a shot. I don't think
yeah,
of winning this
yeah,
really.
for sure. Out of all the first round matches.
But it's funny. Speaking of like, I agree with you on Rob Cross. My boy, as you can tell, Nathan Aspinall. I'm always rooting for him. Um, and he could do well, though he hasn't been playing fantastic recently, to be honest. Rob Cross, I kind of agree. Rob Cross is probably my big bet, I would say, to be able to actually win this tournament legitimately. The other one I took, which we found hilarious, is I actually liked Alex Spellman at plus 15,000. So at 150 to 1. I actually put $25 on it and absolutely broke the sports book. They now have it locked and and are trying to figure out why did someone bet on Alex Spellman on this tournament. I don't know if it was the first bet they took or what. And the reason I like it is, one, he's going against Peter Wright as his draw, which we all know Peter struggles recently. Even when Peter plays well, he seems to get beat. 101 last week and ended up losing 6-3, I think, which is just been his luck, really. For seemingly for the last months, even the handful of times he played well in the Premier League, he would lose. So you've got him, Spellman going against him, and then his second potential match would be Gerwin Price versus Jules Van Dongen. And Jules has been playing off, he plays off and on well. I expect him to keep close. I don't expect him to win that match, but he could. And sometimes, who knows, maybe, these guys, you have to remember the World Series format. You play on day one, and then if you get past day one, it's it's
Day
like the
two.
Premier League,
Yeah.
basically. Except first to 6, 7, and 8, the legs. They're in New York. This is not a ranking event. So remember that. Not a ranking event. The prize money is good. I mean, the prize money is, I think, 20 grand for first place,
Yeah.
or 20,000 pounds. So a little bit more than $25,000. So it's good, but it's not life altering to these top 8 guys. Like these. So, if they're going out and getting pissed drunk, like after on Saturday, on Friday night in New York, like, and are hungover the next day, like, not completely surprised if they turn up and just throw in an absolute like crap game against someone.
Yeah.
And with Spellman, that's kind of what I hope happens to Gerwin Price or Jules Van Dongen. Like, that they just like, I'm going to have a good time in the city, and,
I know.
and be able to do that.
It's the PDC guys, it's like a vacation. Like you said, they're taking it serious, I'm sure, but I think it's more about the fact that they're getting on a tournament trip, and all of the American guys and Canadian guys playing against them. This is something that they've been waiting for, all year, and so it does feel like New York's a fun place to party. Who knows if these guys uh, go out and don't feel their best, the next day, then we could see some upsets. So, like,
Absolutely. I mean, that's why even tonight,
I don't know.
like,
I had to say, I feel like 2 or 3 are coming through. Yeah,
if I had to guess, I'd,
if I
I'd
had to
pick two.
guess.
If I had to bet on how many would go, I would say 2 get through.
Yeah,
2 got through last year. Not the people who you would expect actually got through last year. We look at the matches here, like Matt Campbell's got a terrible draw against Luke Littler. He's
yeah,
probably the best, most consistent one. He just I think Luke Littler's just not. He's going to take it seriously. Plus, he's 17. He can't go out partying.
take a
So
victory lap.
yeah, exactly. Like I don't see him. I don't see Matt Campbell beating him. Jeff Smith could take down Michael Smith, I think.
Sure.
Um, but you look at Matt Campbell against Luke. I mean, I'm thinking the odds as of this taping right now, we're in the afternoon on Thursday. And the draw is out, but the odds aren't out yet.
Yeah.
If I had to guess, I would say Luke was probably like minus 500, minus 600 against.
Oh, really? Minus 600 against Campbell? I was thinking
You were thinking worse?
three. No, 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 like 3 or 400, maybe. I don't know. I
I
hold
mean, minus 300
high
implies that
regard,
Campbell is
but
a 25% chance. I just
yeah,
don't think.
I don't know.
I think Campbell's more around the 15% chance to win a match against
It's
him.
fair. It's,
But
he
it
is
could
my
be.
favorite player out of that. Yeah, the group of non top 8 guys in terms of, I think he's probably the
I agree. I think he's got the
best,
highest.
but
He's got the
yeah, who
highest
knows?
skill level out of all of
Yeah.
them. I just think that was the absolute worst draw. Him or Luke Humphreys was just been absolute
Yeah.
terrible draw. Um, Speaking of which, you look at Luke Humphreys plays David Cameron, and Cameron's decent. I don't think he's good enough to get through against Luke Humphreys, though. I think Luke Humphreys, like,
Yeah, if
he's just too good. Like, I just
yeah,
even Cameron's A game doesn't beat his C+ game. I don't think. So I'm not sure they would show. I'd say he's probably about, yeah, again, probably the same as Littler against Smith, probably
yeah,
like a 700, 800 favorite even.
I agree
Probably
with that.
more.
That
I would say probably even 800 minus 900.
yeah, that's what I was thinking for
So
range.
yeah, the question is, what does it come down to on the legs? If it's 2.5, I'd take Humphreys. If it's 3.5, it's probably
Take
gonna be
Humphrey all
minus
day,
three and
two
a
and a
half.
half.
I'm gonna guess it's gonna be minus 3.5,
Yeah,
minus 110 or
yeah.
something like that. And Cameron
Littler,
could
I'm
get a
taking
couple.
Campbell in that one. But yeah, Humphreys, I could see Humphreys whitewashing
I can see
Campbell
him
like
like Russia
six
Cameron.
zero.
I don't think if it's 3.5, I might take Campbell.
Yeah,
Like if it's 3.5 at a reasonable price, I think Matt Campbell can. I think he can win on his own throw.
yeah,
I don't think he usually doesn't have a real high scoring game to go against throw, especially against someone like Littler. But he could hold his own throw 3 times, I would say,
yeah.
to lose 6-3. Like I could see that happening. And then, so then the other one, Rob Cross and Adam Saveda, like this is, I don't see, like, it's also his first time on a big stage, I think.
Oh yeah.
That's the other thing I want to say. The experience of being on a big stage matters to the point where your first time you were incredibly nervous. And so all these guys, except for Savannah, have played on a big stage before. They've played on televised events before. So um, I would
Big
say,
disadvantage. Yeah.
yeah, there's not the initial jitters that you're going to have played in front of a couple thousand people that like they're used to it. So Savannah, though, not used to it. And I imagine if Rob Cross just plays an average game, he's going to beat him probably 6-2 or better.
Yeah.
So I think this is probably the biggest favorite. I bet Rob Cross is probably like minus 1,600. I would think something along those lines against Nevada. So if it's even,
1,000. Yeah.
yeah. So if it's minus 3.5, you're going to even lay juice on minus three, like price minus
Yes.
150, something like that. I'd still might take it even up to minus 170 or something like that. Like I just think that Cross is he's just too good. He's just too good, and you never know with an unknown. Sometimes they pull stuff out of there, but my guess is that Cross very well
Yeah.
easily wins this 6-1
I'll be
probably.
taking the cross minus 3.5. Yeah. I've never seen, have you seen them go to 4, 5.5 very often? I'm trying to think back to maybe
I've
like the
seen four and a
Bahrain
half.
Masters. We had a
Yeah,
few
the
four and a
Bahrain
half.
Masters. I think Humphreys was 4.5 minus 130 or 40. I think he won 6-1 or 6-0.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think he and that's the problem though when you get and by the way, all these guys are way better than most of the guys that you saw at the Bahrain Arts Masters. Uh, you have a few
Yes.
tour card holders in here. Spellman, I think, is going to Q school and very well could get a tour card this year. Um, I think Danny Lobby, I can't remember if he has a tour card or not. But like these guys are good enough to hang
Yeah.
if
Yeah.
nothing else. And I think that's what, um, yeah, I don't think you're going to see if you see 4.5 out there, this would be the only game. The Rob Cross match would be the only one that has a 4.5. Um, and if you get alt spreads, I probably would take the 4.5 if you have an alt spread available. If it's if you're getting plus money on it.
Yeah.
Number one seed is MVG versus Danny Lobby. Bad draw for Lobby. Danny Lobby's
Tough one.
actually decent.
He is. He's
Like,
also probably like him and Matt Campbell were the ones that maybe
I say that as I bet on Alex Spellman.
going into
Um,
this. But
but I think Lobby, I think he can absolutely. He's not going to. He's pretty even keeled, very even keeled. So I don't see him getting either intimidated or too high. Um, playing against MVG. Like, I think he'll like
Yeah.
he'll relish the opportunity to do it. I don't think he'll win, but if it's 3.5, I'm taking Lobby. Lobby can take 3 legs off MVG, I think. Especially
Yeah.
MVG's not in peak MVG form right now.
Yeah. And Lobby's played some big tournaments before, so he
Yeah,
has
he's
that
played it. He's
experience
played at
that I
Worlds
think,
before. He's played here
yeah.
before.
Or
He's
I
played
don't
the US
expect him to
Masters a few
be
times, I think.
spooked by it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not going to phase him being on a big stage. And I don't think he'll really be rattled even playing someone who's relatively intimidating, like as far as darts players go, is MVG. But if it's plus 3.5, I'm taking at a reasonable price. I'm probably taking Lobby. If it's 2.5, I'm probably taking MVG. But I expect this one.
That sounds
I'm,
about
I'm trying
right.
to think what a fair line would be, and I'd probably say like minus 500 maybe for MVG.
That feels,
Might
yeah,
be might be a little.
500 minus 400.
Yeah, I could
Yeah.
see I could see minus 400. Um, Anything less than minus 400, I'd probably take MVG though.
Oh yeah,
Even minus
definitely.
400 feels it feels a little low to me, but I wouldn't be surprised
Yeah.
if they gave Danny
Sounds like it's
Lobby
worth your,
25% chance of winning this game. I don't think he has a 25% chance of winning this game. I think he has
yeah.
maybe like a 15%, 15 to 20% chance. That's why I think he's more in the 600 range
Yeah.
than anything.
Now I'm excited to see when these lines come out.
Yeah, I am
Hopefully
too. I am too, to
later
see how
today.
far
So,
we're off on them.
oh no.
Um, and so going down the list, Michael Smith versus Jeff Smith. Jeff Smith could win this match. Um, and Michael Smith tends to
Yeah, I gave
either
it the
peter
final
out
last
early
year.
or win these things. It's kind of odd. Um, like I would say this is the one I would say it'd probably be Michael Smith minus 350.
Mm.
Like minus 350 plus 275 is kind of the range I would expect on this.
Jeff Smith, a decent shot at taking this one for
I do.
sure.
The only
So
problem
that
is that
feels,
he did give up his tour card last year, so he's been just kind of hanging around North America. I think the travel was too much for him and his family, spending all the time overseas. But it's not like you lose your game
mm.
completely. It's not like he hasn't been
So,
playing darts, you know. So um, I still I think he's got a shot at beating Michael Smith. Obviously, he went to the finals last year.
yeah.
And it wasn't because everyone did terrible against him. He played well.
Yeah. So he's around an 88 average. I mean, so he's given up 8 average points to Michael Smith.
But yeah, so yeah, I mean, which is
Maybe
obviously
a
why
shot.
Michael Smith's
Yeah.
like a favorite. But you can see Michael Smith showing, you know, if you end up being only a few points apart in your average, like let's just say 3 points during a match, you're not surprised when someone with the lower average wins.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
if someone's, 8, 10 points better than the average, you're very shocked if they lose. But like if someone's like three, you take advantage of opportunity. This is what's happened last year. Smith took Humphreys out on a 167,
Yeah.
like to win his match 6-5 last year. Like, if you take those opportunities, that's how you win these matches is, the other guy just misses, a couple clear darts. You take advantage of a 100+ out shot, and that's how these matches get flipped. And that's kind of what Jeff Smith did last year. And I wouldn't be surprised if he did it to Michael Smith this year.
Just looking at some of the average comparisons, I do think I know we talked Campbell Littler a bit already, but that Campbell player of the group, which to me gives him a decent shot to still take down Littler. And I like Luke Humphreys over Dave Cameron even more, having looked through that a bit. That one, I think I would hammer on -3.5 if they give us that line on Humphreys versus Cameron. So,
Interesting. Yeah. I mean, Campbell's got a good enough average. I mean, he's got a tour card. He plays well. I mean, he's a low 90s average guy, I think, right? Like, it's just that, like, if Littler, the thing is, Littler is an absolute showman, and he's going to want to put
yeah.
on a good
Oh
show in New
yeah.
York.
Yeah.
So
That's
I
true.
don't think he's going to be very laissez-faire about his time,
this match.
his tip
No.
here. I think he's going to want to put on a show. And plus, he's kind of the star of the show right now.
Yeah.
Like people want to come to see Luke Littler, and
Yeah.
he knows it.
Imagine he misses Saturday.
Oh God, that would be
To
terrible.
point.
That's why I thought I kind of felt bad for Matt Campbell.
So
He got a
yeah.
bad draw last year too. I'm trying to think who he lost to last year. I think it was. I want to say it was actually Luke Humphreys he lost to last year. Luke Humphreys or MVG. I can't remember. But he got a bad draw last year. He got a bad draw this year. And it just kind of sucks because Matt Campbell is probably if you put the 8 PDC or non PDC stars into a bucket, he'd probably win that tournament. And he just gets the worst draw out there.
Yeah. That is unlucky. He did have a good. I mean, I was first introduced to him at the Worlds this past year, where he made a little bit of a deep run there.
Yeah, he
Got
did. He
past
actually played
Christmas
very
at
well.
least. Yeah.
Yeah, which incidentally, didn't he lose to Luke Humphreys or Luke Littler?
Might have been Littler.
I think he
Yeah.
lost to Littler
Oh,
because
so we got a little
like
revenge.
4-1 or something like that. Yeah, actually, that's interesting. I mean, you would think he would want revenge, but honestly, I think he just wants to play well. And Kimmel actually didn't play bad that match.
Yeah.
He just got run over by the Littler train,
Yeah.
and that's just it. Like when Luke Littler's at his A game, they're like him and Luke Humphreys. Maybe even Humphreys more so. If he's on his A game, I don't think there's anybody that just touches him.
Yeah. No.
Their
Chance.
scoring power is too high. Even if
So
they're
much
missing
higher than
darts,
anyone
like their
else's.
first nines are up around 120, 115 when they're on their A game, 120. And it's just, you're getting you have darts at 12 dart legs all the time. Like you just can't compete with that.
Yeah.
And then so we got 2 more left. Gerwin Price
Yeah.
and Jules Van Dongen. Jules keeps wanting to make a name for himself. Like you feel like he just can't quite get to the next level.
Yeah. Well, honestly, it doesn't show that he's been playing that well recently. Like 1 year ago, he was playing a lot better than he was right now, or is right now,
Yeah.
it seems. So I'm not sure. He might be having a bit of an off or down year so far.
Yeah, and this worries me. I mean, Gerwin Price did play last week. In I think it was the Dutch Darts Masters or Dutch
Yeah.
Open or something like that. I can't remember what the name of it was, but he did play in that. So he's the only he you got to fly across country, whatever, across the continent and across the ocean. So he's got enough time to be here. But sometimes you wonder if, like, especially with the Premier League, Gerwin Price started looking worn out a little bit.
Even talking about that. Yeah.
Yeah. And he'd been kind of alluding to that a bit himself. Jules, like, I think he just hasn't been playing as great recently. When he was at his peak, which I would have said was probably about maybe 4 months ago or something like that. Like, you might say this is a lot closer than it is now, but right now I'd probably take Gerwin Price definitely at -2.5. It's probably like, I'm gonna say this is probably like -400, something like that, -450, somewhere in that range. Gerwin Price winning, or for his odds.
Yeah, I was thinking for this one, but
Yeah.
we'll see.
Yeah, and I'd probably take Gerwin Price if it's -2.5 at a reasonable price. It's somewhere like -120, -130. I think I would take Gerwin Price at that.
Me too. Me too. Definitely.
Yeah. Final match: Peter Wright and Alex Spellman. I already kind of
Yes.
said earlier
Alluded
that
to
I
this
bet
one.
Spellman to win, and this is one of the reasons. His draw is if he beats Peter Wright, he plays either Gerwin Price or Jules Van Dongen.
Yeah.
Not the worst quarterfinal matchup. If you can get by it. Which then if you put him into the semis, which you probably would play Littler or Smith, maybe you get lucky and he plays Michael Smith. I don't know. But I actually think I think the odds, this will be the closest odds, I think, of all the matches.
Yeah. It's the closest average differential between the two players. So it should be the closest odds, I would think.
Yeah. I'm gonna say it's probably Peter Wright, probably I would say minus 150, 160, somewhere in there. Like he should be
35.
favored.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, but honestly, like I'm probably gonna take Spellman if it's not if it's plus 125 or something or better, I'm probably taking Spellman to win. Um,
Yeah.
if it's not, and if it's closer to, evens or something like that, then uh probably not. Peter Wright's still Peter Wright. Like I know he's been playing poorly the last, handful of months, but even when he's playing poorly, he's still averaging like a lot of times in the mid 90s.
Mhm.
I mean, sometimes he's bombed out in the mid 80s on the Premier League. You could tell it was terrible, but I don't, assume he's not that poor. Like
Yeah.
he should still be a favorite. And I still like, if that's the case, I like Spellman just because I think the odds are probably about 50-50, 55-40,
55,
52-48.
45.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, something like
Yeah.
that for Peter Wright.
Yeah.
So if Spellman gets good plus money, I'll be taking Spellman.
Yeah. Same here. It would have to
What?
get
And if it's plus two, if he's getting 2.5 at a
close to 50
reasonable
50 for me to
price,
take Peter Wright, I think. So,
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I agree. If it's close to 50-50, you probably take Peter Wright. But if it's 2.5, if he's getting 2.5, like minus
Oh,
130,
yeah.
like I'm
No,
absolutely taking Spellman on that.
excited to get a 2.5 on Spellman here.
Yeah, I don't know if we're
We'll see.
going to. I honestly, I
Yeah.
think it'd probably be 1.5.
Yeah.
And even then, if you get 1.5 plus 100 or something like that, it'll probably be minus one. Come to think of it, if it's a minus
Yeah.
150, it's
Usually in those
probably minus
cases,
115, um, plus 1.5 minus 115 or something like
yeah.
that.
Yeah.
It's even then, I think I'd probably still take Spellman
Yeah.
getting the leg. Like I could see that going to a last leg decider.
Yeah. I don't love betting the plus 1.5s when they're available, but what I other times is putting maybe 80% of the bet, 75% of the bet on the plus 1.5. That gives you, the out if it does go to a final leg and you still get the win. And then you still have 20-25% of your bet on the money line at better juice. And it just, uh, booking in those last leg scenarios, seems like it's more enjoyable at least. I
Yeah,
don't know if the value is there on the plus 1.5 because I typically feel the minus 1.5 is the more valuable side most of the time. But
I tend to agree with you. The only thing that would the okay, so from the pure qualitative perspective, the only thing I think is, does Spellman get nervous if it goes to 5-5? Like you
yeah,
trust experience in 5-5 legs, the
no,
experienced person generally comes out on top.
yeah,
If experience,
exactly,
if there's a difference in experience,
yeah,
if it's,
yeah,
Peter Wright versus Michael Smith, whatever, you're taking the person who throws first. If you have someone that's not experienced
yeah,
versus someone experienced, you take the experienced person when it comes
yeah,
to close matches. So that's where I, that's where I would lean myself to go to take a plus 1.5. I agree with splitting it. So if you think he can get to plus 1.5, he can win
yeah,
outright.
yeah.
And so that I agree. I would take part Spellman on 1.5, part to win
Fine.
outright.
Yeah, yeah. No, I like.
Plus, it feels good if it
Yeah.
gets to the final leg, anyways. Then you're like, all right, at least I got something on my
I know.
bet
I always
back.
feel good, at least booking the win even before the match is over.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
Awesome. Well, that'll be it for this episode. I'm actually going to the meet and greet tonight, so hopefully I don't if I find that anyone is sick or jet lagged or completely hungover, maybe I'll go against what I just said on against some of the bets today.
we'll have to do
Yeah, like so, like hopefully they're all in good shape. But you never know. The
Yeah.
people party in New York. Stuff is, they go to these places. This is what happens when it was in Vegas too. I'm convinced people were out partying in Vegas late when they held this event in Vegas.
Yeah,
And
definitely.
they were just not uh just not completely into it. Like they were just up there again. This is what happens in the non-ranking events, right? If you go out in the first round versus the second round, it's $1,000. You know, some people rather have the day off for $1,000, maybe. Who knows? Like, so I wish I was in that position, but like, these guys are.
Yeah.
So very good. Until next time, I'm Justin Wagler. This is Jonathan Sokol, and we'll report back, see how we did in the US Darts Masters, and then a couple upcoming events. So
Yep.
talk to everyone then.
Bye.